In the midst of social distancing and business lockdowns, a freelance writer and a graphic artist bought a bus, converted it into a tiny home on wheels, and moved out of our 4-bedroom house. 1 year later, we downsized to a Chevy Express. Now we travel between Texas and Pennsylvania from April through November while exploring small towns with rich histories. In the winter, we hunker down in Texas in our schoolie and dream of our next big trip.
We're Alan and Teresa.
And we're rolling with our gnomies. Well, good morning. We're in Brenham, Texas here, and I can tell already I'm a little bit impressed with this town. It's beautiful, beautiful small town here in central Texas, hill country. I think it was founded around 1844 thereabouts. It was made the county seat of Washington County, one of the largest counties actually around the Civil War time. It was the most populated county. Actually had more people living here during the Civil War than in Houston. So it was a larger, more populated area. We're going to learn a little bit about Brenham here today, and the history, a little bit of the culture, and so I hope you enjoyed as much as we did. Okay, so we're looking at the Simon Theater at Washington County Visitors Center, which is right next to the theater there on this side of it.
It's part of the theater.
Yeah, that whole building there was built in 1925. Architecturally important, it was designed by the famous architect Alfred C. Finn in the early 20th century classic revival style. It was plush and popular in its time with an upstairs ballroom used for events. The lower floor had a lobby, a retail space, a vaudeville stage, and movie theater with seating for 739, including the balcony. The handsome Simon Theater will soon serve the community again as an entertainment and event venue. And I think it may be open now for that purpose.
I think it may be. The visitor center is housed in the retail section.
Yeah, and we went in there and it actually looks pretty nice inside. So it's a nice building and looks nice. I mean, look, you can tell it is a period piece. We're at Tubin Park here in Brenham, Texas, and behind me here is an underground cistern that was built in 1880 for collecting rainwater and harvesting rainwater, which is, I believe it's currently still in use by one of the local businesses. It was built in 1880, and Tubin Park here actually has a system of underground cisterns, so this is not the only one here. But they cover Brenham actually, and it's the only system of historic public cisterns found in the state of Texas. So this little park has several markers here, teaches you about rainwater harvesting and using cisterns for that purpose, and some other information here about the history of Brenham and the railroad system and all of that. And so this says it's a Wild West tale of an early railroad, a rough boom town, and inventive citizens who banded together in adversity. So we're going to take a little tour here of the park, learn a little bit about the cistern system, and then continue on with the tour. So we're looking at a marker here in Tubin Park. It tells the story of the railroad here in Brenham. This was the second railroad built in the state of Texas, and really signifies the innovative spirit of the people here in the early part of this state of Texas. Washington County was very well known for its cotton, corn, and cattle and manufactured goods. One of the local lawyers by the name of J.D. Giddings was the first person to see the benefits of using a railroad here in Washington County, and so he lobbied for that to happen, and the railroad actually kind of led to the growth of the area. As you know, in those days, in the mid-19th century, they often did, and so Brenham became, or Washington County, which Brenham is a part of, actually is the county seat of, and it was a very popular place during that time, thanks to the railroad. And they built these cisterns for collecting rainwater, because in Texas it can get dry for long periods of time. So they actually built the buildings with that in mind, and we walk around town, you see the sloped roofs that were designed for that purpose.
And at the end, at the completion of the Washington County Railroad, which connected with the Houston Railroad, the Civil War broke out. So it slowed the rest of the construction in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
It was Friday night, September 7th of 1866, and the atmosphere in Brenham was downright hostile. During the past year of living under military rule, residents had been relentlessly harassed by Union soldiers. Violence was routine.
Evidently, Brenham was burnt to the ground.
But who burned it?
It was about 3 a.m. The entire block of buildings burned while residents watched helplessly. Let me see. Oh, there were shootings?
Well, yeah, the other sign said that violence was a way of life.
Yeah, I would imagine. So there was a lot going on here. Evidently, Brenham was under Union control. There was some gunfire, soldiers shooting. Captain Samuel A. Craig, head of the Freedmen's Bureau office in Brenham, ran up the street with a drawn revolver.
Yeah, evidently dance was organized to raise funds for a new black school. And the black Union soldiers showed up and caused a problem.
Yeah, and Wyatt's saloon was looted and ransacked. In the same block, Compton's dry goods store was also wrecked, and everything of value was hauled off to Camptown. Soon, smoke and sparks belched out of Compton's store, and it went up in flames. Several young men had been sleeping upstairs in the Southern Banner newspaper office. They ran down the stairs, dodging gunshots and flames, and barely escaped with their lives. Some soldiers mounted their horses and raced down the street. Others stayed outside the burning buildings, laughing, singing, smoking cigars, and drinking from whiskey bottles. That sounds like Texans.
Right. Here, hold my beer. Watch this. Now, it does say that the fire of 1866 destroyed 4 dry goods stores, a drugstore, a saddler's shop, 2 saloons, a bookstore, a soda fountain, law and medical offices, and a warehouse full of goods.
Still don't see what started the fire.
We don't know. It started in that store.
Yeah, it started in the dry goods store, but we don't know what started.
J.D. Giddings was in Austin and was none too happy to wake up on Saturday, September 8th, to find out that his hometown had burned. He was serving in the legislature at the time.
After the burning of Brenham, townsfolk focused on rebuilding and avoiding more trouble with the Union troops in their midst. The soldiers were still allowed to roam the streets at all hours, drunk and abusive to all they encountered. Hostilities remained a part of daily life. But 10 days after the fire, locals were overjoyed that Captain Samuel Craig left Brenham for a new post in Seguin. He had been instigator of the burglaries and arsons, and then I guess these events led to the Hook and Ladder Company.
Yeah, they developed their fire company.
Within a few months after the Hook and Ladder Company was formed in 1867, the city began building Brenham's first public cisterns for firefighting.
Okay. The rest of the stories.
There you go.
Well, there's lots more to know about J.D. Giddings, D.C. Giddings, and the Union Army, as well as
Yeah.
Major
General Sheridan.
And Throckmorton, Governor
Throckmorton.
James Throckmorton.
So there's a lot of history here in Brenham concerning the Civil War, and we're not going to go through all the stories, but evidently it's a important
It's a hotbed
location.
of contention, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But those fires sparked the building of the cisterns for firefighting, which was their main goal, was to have water to use for firefighting.
Yep, and so this tells the story of the cisterns and how they were used and how they built the rooftops to catch the water, and what they used the water for. So, hey, if you're ever in town, come to Brenham, Texas. You can learn all about it.
Yeah. Well, this building here, this cast iron building support, is actually part of the cistern system. The water would come down off the roof through the support and enter here. It would exit here and then go into the drain that drains down into a pipe similar to this one over here and into the cistern. Pretty nifty concept. You can see on this brick building here how the downspouts of the day were used. So, we use rain barrels, they use giant cisterns into the ground. Okay.
All right, so we're looking at the Brenham Heritage Museum, built around 1915 in the Classical Revival Building. Originally, it was a federal building that housed the U.S. Post Office.
That makes sense. It looks like a post office building.
It does. Several renovations have kept it modernized, and it now belongs to the city of Brenham. Many museum displays tell the story of Texas and Washington County. Also part of the Brenham Heritage Museum complex are two buildings that were added later to display Brenham's antique fire trucks, and that would be those two buildings there on the right.
Right, and the museum is in fact closed today.
It is. Yeah, so
it is a Monday, and today the museum is only open Wednesday through Saturday.
If in that small building there, right there, there's horse and carriage. I would say probably an early fire engine.
It is an early
horse
fire
and
engine.
Carriage fire engine.
But it's an absolutely gorgeous building. I can see the post office.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking at the Washington County Courthouse here in Brenham, Texas, built in 1939. And in that year when the courthouse was built, the Art Deco style was popular, so that's what they used. Notice the streamlined forms and the metal grille work over the entrances and the cut stone work on each of the corners. The gazebo to our left is a replica of an earlier auction stand and serves the community for many downtown events. The original courthouse was built in 1844 when Brenham became the county seat and was made of local cedar. In 1855, a larger courthouse was built of locally made bricks. A third courthouse was built in 1884 and was crowned with a central bell tower, a visual landmark for miles around.
Well, evidently this is the most recent version, and it is not the prettiest courthouse. Oh.
It is not the prettiest courthouse in Texas, but it does have some unique features.
It does. I like the lights out front, and I like the metal work over the doors, but it is not a pretty courthouse. It's not pretty.
And the guy from Canada was impressed with
The
it.
guy from Canada was very impressed with it.
So, the G. Herman Furniture Store in 18...
Hold on, you're gonna have to wait on the trucks. It's a hazard of recording in Texas. All right, now.
In 1876, the first furniture store in Washington County was founded right here at this location. The original family still operates the store today, known as Herman Furniture Store. Its original owner, Gottlieb Herman, was a native German who rebuilt and remodeled continuously to keep the property updated. Its current cast stone face and details are of the classical Beaux Art period of the 1920s.
Yeah.
All right, we're looking at the Healy Wilder Building. It was built in 1887, as you can see by the big numbers up there on top. This Victorian building boasts one of the few pressed metal cornices still intact in downtown Brenham. The brick detail work is also notable, and the old garage doors. Skylights were used to light the long dark spaces that otherwise had limited street front exposure for natural light.
Nifty.
That's a pretty cool looking building. All right, so we're looking at the Schoenberg Buildings, built between the 1880s and 1916.
It's this one here.
Yeah, and that gray one
this
down
one
there.
right there, the big gray one. Two-story building.
Yeah, so Captain Frederick Wilhelm Schoenberg was a native German and master blacksmith. He built the old Brazos Forge in the early 1880s with his sons at the location of this one-story brick building.
Ah,
Let's
right
see.
here.
Okay.
The one-story
The
brick
coffee-
building.
The coffee building.
Yep.
That's 203, I believe. And that's 205. So it's both of these
Yeah.
buildings.
203, 205, 208.
All right, so the private bricked alley was used to assemble buggies, which is right there between the buildings. The building at 205 West Alamo was later erected to house the first Ford dealership in Washington County. That would be this
Right
big
this
green
way.
building, two-story building.
You gotta love a train.
An adjoining building to the west was added for space to assemble automotive parts. It included a hand crank elevator to move vehicles between floors. In 1916, the Schoenberg Company built a massive two-story brick building east of the alley.
There you
The
go.
gray building there.
Okay.
Nice.
What'd they put in that one?
Doesn't say,
Well. Okay.
but I would imagine maybe it had something to do with the automobiles.
Maybe. Okay. Okay.
So this fine specimen of a building was built in 1899. The Schmidt brothers built this two-story Romanesque revival building to house a grocery, feed store, and upstairs saloon. Its architecture is noteworthy, including ornate metal-leafed capitals above the columns on the second floor. The first floor storefront is original and typical of its period, and the building still has a hand crank freight elevator. Sweet. The Brenham Opera House was built in 1872. Once home of a fine opera house on the second floor and Alex Simon's General Mercantile on the first floor. The upstairs opera house had a large stage, orchestra pit, a dress circle, dressing rooms, and boxed seats with gilded and velvet upholstered seating. It's rumored that deceased opera performers still haunt the building today.
Okay then.
So here's the Giddings and Giddings Bank building, built in 1872 by one of the most influential families in Brenham history. It housed the first bank in Washington County. The third floor was the meeting place of the local Mason Lodge, led by the brothers J.D. and D.C. Giddings. The elegant Victorian building represents the high stature of the Giddings family with an exquisite iron storefront. The columns in front are slender with fluted shafts, decorative floral motifs, and Corinthian capitals.
It is a gorgeous building.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Good.
All right, this is a cool looking building. Moody Wheeler Building, built in 1885. Historically known as the Greek-American Candy Kitchen. It won the Texas Downtown Association's Best Rehabilitation Project in 2001. Built during prosperous times, but multiple remodeling efforts left the building looking forlorn for many years. The present owner restored this building to its original design using Victorian style brick relief work punctuating the decorative details. An ornate pressed metal cornice crowns the building with multiple brackets and a dated pediment over the entrance.
Nice. It is a pretty building.
It is a pretty. All right, the Basset and Bassett Banking House was built in 1873. It's a 3-story Italianate building. Built the house a bank, law offices, and a cotton exchange. The original bank building was a wooden structure built in 1866. It was rebuilt using local brick. In 1907, renovations were made for the owner's cotton brokering business, and the building's classic details were carefully recrafted. A 3rd floor with a skylight was added to provide the natural light needed to grade the cotton. The longer the fiber, the more valuable the cotton. And this part of Texas had a lot of cotton fields at that time and still actually does.
It still does.
All right, the Farmers National Bank Building. It was built in 1870 as a mercantile store and was renovated for the Farmers National Bank in 1916. The original building had a 2nd-story ballroom where community dances were held. Legend has it that a fight was started here in 1866 that led to federal troops burning much of the downtown area.
Ah, that's where the dance was held. Okay.
Yeah, so things are starting to fall together. So here's an interesting looking building. It kind of looks out of place here.
It looks new, and
it looks
it's not.
new, but it was built around 1848. In 1847, John B. Wilkins sold the lot to Daniel Shipman, who built the first building here. Shipman owned the property for 20 years, but its earliest use is not known. Since then, it has been used for a clothing manufacturer, a 5 and dime store, Navratil's music store, and a restaurant, which I think it now is.
Right.
And you can see the Navratil music letters just above the right door there.
Oh, you can see it real good in the camera.
Yeah, so...
Way better than I could see it with my naked eye.
Interesting looking building. It kind of looks out of place with those around it, but it's got the H.F. Holt Company department store was built in 1914. Designed by architects Page and Page out of Austin. This building used the most contemporary design of the day. Mr. Holt co-founded a feed store at the same location in 1883. He accepted Holt tokens as well as U.S. currency. Cryptocurrency, before there was cryptocurrency.
Nah, that's not how that works.
I imagine they were physical tokens.
Yeah, I don't think they were pretend tokens.
It's interesting though, they served as a local currency or a specialized currency just for his business.
Right.
The opening of Walmart led to the closing of the store in 1978, and later renovations introduced a new atrium-lit mall interior.
Now it looks like it's office buildings.
Yeah. Legend.
Okay.
All right, so in 1899, the Winkleman and Bond building was built. It was a dry goods store and operated until 1932. It became a city food #1 and later leased by J.C. Penney Company. when a gold aluminum siding covered the building facade. Current owners removed the siding and restored the building to its original design. Now I wish I had some history on these murals. They gave us they have an art walk tour.
Right, but it doesn't ever tell you anything about them.
And it just shows the artwork and numbers them, but there's no write-up on what they are and all of that.
But they are pretty cool, and I have, you saw some of the photographs in the trailer at the beginning of the video.
Yeah, so it would be nice to see when this particular art building, billiards player.
I'm going to guess when they removed the aluminum siding.
Yeah, it could have been then, or it could have come along later.
I don't know.
But I think it's a pretty cool mural.
Yep.
Glissman Pharmacy, built around the 1860s. Used as a pharmacy originally, and very important for its time period, ornate cast iron was used to dress up the masonry art structure, although the brick detailing along the sides and rear are very fine. The second floor space is lit by an elongated octagonal skylight. You can see the side of the building and how it's different than the front face.
Yeah.
More worn.
That's why I stopped right here to get it. The brickwork is absolutely gorgeous, but it is very much plain.
Yeah, very, very nice building. I like these two buildings, the red and the blue one, are called the Dunlap Buildings and built around 1870. S.M. Dunlap bought the property in 1870 and constructed the buildings. A saddle making shop was the first known business here. A later tavern was the site of many fights and, of course, arrests. In the mid to late 1900s, it was the site of a bank, a dry cleaner store, and a grocery. Since then, the two buildings have been used for upscale restaurants. They kind of look like residences now.
Nah, they're Longhorn Steakhouse.
Well, that one is, but this...
I think it's all one.
Probably a part of the same restaurant, but it does kind of look like it could be residence.
Right, right.
Concludes our tour of Brenham, Texas. There's a lot of history here and a lot of culture. Very interesting stuff. I wish we had more time to delve into the history a little bit more, but if you're ever down this way, then be sure to stop off in Brenham.
This is the home of Bluebell ice cream also.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, it's on one of the murals, actually, here in town.
That you saw at the beginning of the video.
So Bluebell ice cream, and I love Bluebell ice cream, was started here in Brenham. And so be sure to stop in, take a tour, walk around town, and take in the sights. All right. If I don't do this right, then I'm going to be on the bad side of my wife. So y'all bear with me and pray for me. But while you're doing that, don't forget, share us with your friends, like us if you like us if you don't, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. God bless.